videos, Love Fest, super big for us, man. They just had a big thing on Southeast. Let's give it up for them again. They're reaching people out there, the people that nobody wants to reach. We're out there reaching. It's our passion. It's why we got saved. You know, we like to give out bikes and just toys and just all kinds of stuff. We try to, people are bringing furniture out. It's just kind of what we do, I tell everybody, yo, spring cleaning, but bring the good stuff. Don't do that to somebody. Don't just give them the beat up stuff. You wouldn't want the beat up stuff. But if you got it and you're like, man, I had this dresser that I really using, you bring it out. Somebody needs it. And you were just sharing with the community with what we have. Amen. And that's really important. And then today, everybody say, love wins. Love wins. Oh, this is exciting. Marriage Conference 2022, August. There's going to be some people registering you today. There's an early bird special. This is incredible. We love it. We dress up on prom night. It's just fire. You get to see baby girl dressed up again. And then baby girl gets to see the husband dressed up again, because sometimes you know what happens. We get married and we start slacking. You know what I mean? You got your favorite sweatpants and your favorite sweatshirt, and that's cool. But I remember the time when we fell in love, right? When you were up there and you saw her walking down. Come on. Some of you haven't got married, but when you do, you're going to be like, yeah. And she's like, wow, he's handsome today. And that's the whole goal of it, right? And so do me a favor. I was going to have him stand up, but I want you to stand up real quick. This is going to be like one of those churches where you stand up, sit down, stand up. Just one stand up, just one. If everybody can stand up real quick. And Grant, would you raise your hand? He's family. Let's give it up for Grant Stewart. You guys can have a seat. I wanted to honor him, and I know he didn't ask for this, and I don't want y'all to get all weird with it, where you're like, oh my God, Grant Stewart is here. For us, he's just family. He's just family. And as I told him on the phone yesterday, I really appreciate the way you're representing Christ, the way you're out there. And so for us, you're always like, you're just always going to be like here, right? Some people here, hopefully if you were a Texans fan, Dallas fan, and you're part of the house, it's like automatic. You just got to be a Tampa fan. You know what I'm saying? So, I had to fight with that within, but I was like, yo, there's just no way I can't support anybody else now, right? After the first service, man, they're passing through, so Josie Stewart is going to get baptized. I want y'all to meet me immediately outside. Usually we do it on the screen, but this was like a Hail Mary type thing. We caught it. We caught it, by the way, So, my football analogy is because he's here. But we're going to be out there, and I just want us to support, her baptism today as a church family. Amen? Awesome. So let me get into the sermon. We are starting a sermon series today called Love Wins, Let's Talk. A lot of times people don't understand when you say things unless you start to know a person. And when you know a person, you understand. Sometimes you go like, I see people say, oh, there's got to be more than love. And I see all the stuff. And that, for me, I feel like they're looking at it from a perspective that I'm not. When I say love wins, that always means that at the cross, we win. When we crucify the crucified life, I no longer live, it is Christ who lives in me. When I mention the word love, no greater love than this, than one who will lay down his life for his fellow friend, right? Jesus the reason we know he loved us first is because he was at the cross. That's how we know, right? He went to the cross for me, for you, for you, for you. And I feel like that's important to really understand when we're talking about love. We're not talking about loving you is easy cause, you know what I'm saying? And every time that even though that's cool, and me and Ruthie, when we go on date night, we have a little playlist, and when we go out, I jam it, and I give her the, so she could, we could rise up the feeling. Amen. But when we're talking spiritually, that's not what holds our marriage together. I mean, I wish it did. Then the world would have really good married people, wouldn't be getting divorced. And so we're going to be talking today. Everybody say, let's talk. We're going to be talking about talking because I think it's a really important thing. I see a lot of people, I always believe that marriage is a direct reflection of your salvation, and that the people who are struggling in marriage is because they really haven't had a revelation of their Savior. In other words, you're going to be a good groom to a bride when you're a good bride to your groom. Brides, you're going to be a good bride when you're a bride to your Jesus, the groom. And when we get those things right, that's usually why there's a lot of problems. Most of the things you talk about, you don't live it with Jesus, so you could tell because it happens in the natural. And so you could say, well, it's because of this, it's because of that. No, you're talking to the guy, 23 years addiction, just 10 years of prison, all that. That's why my passion, I'm excited about marriage because of how my groom makes me feel. And I know that sounds weird, but I'm talking about Jesus Christ, my groom. So how he makes me feel, I don't understand why, he just, I just want to do this with my wife because he gives me, this, I feel alive. So I want to share that with her. Everybody say share. Okay, so the Greek word for fellowship, I'm going to read some things and then we're going to talk about how to talk to somebody. Is koinonia, which means partnership, sharing in common, or communion, common union. We took communion today because we have things in common that we share with one another, and that's the death, the burial, and the resurrection. And all of us together, when we're in communion, or, when you look at communion, the derivative is commune, which means to share. When you look at communion, it means you have common union. There are things you share alike. That's how you're in agreement as the body of Christ. That means if two of you are at home and you're married and you're both saved, you should have things in common that make you respect and act a certain way with one another. So maybe the possibility is that if that's not happening and you out here doing a lot of things, that means your motive is probably wrong and you're probably a liar. It's biblical. If you say you love me but do not love your brother, the truth is not in you. Now there's grace and mercy. I get all that. I'm just going biblical. Like if you're doing a whole lot of Jesus stuff, but the person that knows you best don't see Jesus, then maybe that Jesus is not there. So koinonia is a partnership, right? Basically, partnership is an agreement with the unity of purpose. Fellowship with God at the most basic elemental teaching is that it's agreement with him in all things. I have to say all this before I talk because I have to give you this understanding of where this comes from, because I believe that everything I have a relationship with Jesus is basically you can flip it and it should be coming out of you with your fellow man and woman. And in this case, we're talking marriage. Right? So if you're single, this applies to you because this is what you should be doing. And if you're married, this applies to you because your first marriage, I'm not talking about the crazy one, I'm talking about the one where you, I don't want to say raise your hands, you had a crazy marriage, Probably have a lot of folks. But the reason it was crazy is because Jesus wasn't in it. Right? So with God, it's agreement with him in all things. Right? We have fellowship with God the Father, we have fellowship with his Son, and we have fellowship with the Holy Spirit. There's 3 scriptures for that. Fellowship, we're in partnership with the Father because we're in partnership with the Son. Because we're in partnership with the Son, we're in partnership with the Holy Spirit. Y'all understand that? Everybody say agreement. So to have fellowship with other people, there must be oneness of heart. How can 2 walk together unless they agree? Right? So at the heart of fellowship, remember we've had a sermon about the heart. You can look it up. I might preach on it again. I'm not sure. But when you look at the heart, it's the core of your being. So when you delight yourselves in the Lord, he will give you the desires of your heart because you're interlinked and you have agreement. When we did communion this morning, we were saying we were in agreement with his Spirit. That's what you were doing. You were taking communion because you have things in common that you share with one another, and you're in agreement with his Spirit. That's why Paul says don't be unequally yoked, because you're going to be going in one direction and the other person is going to go in another direction. Right? The reason why God speaks to us is so that we can respond. So when you're somewhere and the Spirit of the Lord speaks to you, you want to respond to that. That's how you know somebody is listening. We got a whole lot of people that talk the good talk, but don't walk the walk. And that's why we're getting the mess that we get into, right? 1 John 2, 3, and 5. So far we understand agreement. Everybody say agreement. You understand that there has to be agreement. That's how you practice that with your Heavenly Father. You practice that on a daily basis. developing your life, right? It's not just transferred information, it's transformation. Right? He's trying to he gives you that information so it transform your whole lifestyle. Not just so you can know it. You ever talk to somebody and you go, hey, da-da-da-da, and they go, yeah, I know. I've said it too. Right? We have all said it. One thing is to say it, another thing is to just stay that way. Because after a while, when you keep talking to somebody and they keep telling you, I know, you start to wonder, do you? You know, like, do you know? Because you keep telling me you know, but I don't see it in your changed lifestyle. I don't see it in the way your life is walked out. 1 John 2:3-5 says, by this we know that we have come to know him. This is so good. It's just rich. Remember, I'm going to talk to y'all about a lot of practical stuff, but I want to show y'all where I get this from. If we keep his commandments. So by this we know that we have come to know him if we keep his commandments. The one who says, I have come to know him, but does not keep his commandments is a liar. And the truth is not in him. But whoever keeps my word, truly in him the love of God is made complete. Oh, this is so good, yet so it's kind of simple to understand. I hope I can relay this. It says, this is how we know we are in him. The one who says he remains in him should walk just as we walked. So you see truth. You see, like when I read this, I'm like, yo, because he talks to me out of me reading my word, and his spirit speaks to me in my inner man. I respond to what he's saying so he knows that I'm listening. When he talks to me, I respond to what he's saying, so therefore he knows that I'm listening. Oh, we're going to take this into a marriage thing. Y'all just follow me. The word gnosko is to know through personal experience. Right? Gnosko. In Hispanics, we say te conozco. Real close. I don't know who came up with it first. No, I'm just kidding. But like personal experience. To know, right? I know like, so being a Christian is more than knowing about Jesus. It's being a Christian is knowing him personally. It's literally having a relationship. We talked about building relationships. It's the connection that we have, right? I know him. There's a connection that we have. We are connected. He's my Father, my Heavenly Father. Come on. He's a lot of things to me. He's my Savior. He's my deliverer. He's my provider. And all of this encompass because Jesus is my Lord. Which does a lot. If you think about what we talked about in that connection and that responsibility, is that if he's my Lord, or if he's my Father, Heavenly Father, then I have a responsibility to the role that I play. Right? My role right now as a pastor is to give you the word. Y'all should be spending time with Jesus, reading your word, and you then listen as a body and do that with one another, and we praise the Lord and then change the city and everywhere we've set foot. Right? I'm going to use Grant again. Just because he's not here in the physical, sitting in that chair every week or up here singing, he's over there talking about Jesus. His personal relationship wasn't dependent upon a Sunday. It was an actual relationship. And then he goes all the way to Tampa, and he didn't stop talking about Jesus. You don't see him in the club popping bottles out there. Like, wow, I'm in the NFL. You don't see that. You see him talking about Jesus. Unashamedly, too. That's a big thing to me. Right? Because he's around a bunch of people who probably don't talk about Jesus. Some probably do, but some are popping bottles. So they might look at him like, square. You're doing your thing, you popping bottles. He's like, yo, praise the Lord. And he's still unashamed. The human bond in marriage is a metaphor for God's relationship with Israel. It's a picture of the union with Christ and the church. It says, whoever is united with the Lord is one with him in spirit. That's 1 Corinthians 6:17. Ephesians 5:31-32, for this reason a man will leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife. The two will become one flesh. The mystery is profound, but I'm talking about Christ and the church, right? So the two become one in purpose so that they function like one person, balancing each other's strengths and weaknesses so together they could fulfill the God-given calling. And so what's the first step? The first step is humility. You're going to hear a word today. You're going to hear it. If you're listening, you'll respond. But the first step is humility. Most people hear something and they're like, hey, lords of their own life. Let me give you an equivalent of what Lord of your own life is. So you hear the word, you know it's in the word, you heard it preached, you looked it up, it told you the same thing, it came in agreement, and you're like, wow, what that dude was saying is true. Now all of a sudden, when the matter happens, you do it the way you want to do it, how you want to do it. Therefore, Jesus isn't Lord, you are Lord of your own life. Because you're doing things the way you want to do them. Now, we have a pretty good habits that we usually say, well, I'm not perfect, and it's cool in the beginning. Like for a baby, it's cool if they're spitting up their food. But if my son, who's in his 20s, and some in 30s, even my high school student, I gave him food and he spit it up, I would have a problem with that. I'd actually ask him, like, what's the problem? Why do we pray? We pray because intimacy only comes through prayer. A lot of people say that prayer is talking to God. Okay, so let's do that. We talk to God because it creates intimacy. It creates intimacy. It creates agreement. It's a conversation between heaven and earth. You are the earth. He is heaven. It's a heart-to-heart dialogue between heaven and earth when you guys are talking, right? Simple. When two people are talking, they get closer. The level of one's intimacy is determined by the frequency of one's conversation. The more we talk, the more we get to know one another. The more you get to know one another, the more you want to talk. And some of you might not be in that place. Because you're like, hey, you know what? When we talk, because listen, let me tell you. Ruthie and I would like to say we're spiritual beings having a human experience. I'm not the creator of that. Somebody else said it, but I like it. Rather than a human being having a spiritual experience, right? I no longer live, and I try to be spiritual, but I also know that Jesus came as a human so that we can be human, so that we can reach the other humans. Are you with me? So we're going to talk about talking. Now, most of the time when I counsel somebody or something, they go, yeah, I just don't bring that up. We don't talk about that because you just don't understand how he gets, or you don't understand how she gets. That tried to creep into my marriage. I'm pretty transparent with this. I love my wife. So I hope you hear what it is they're saying. But that's tried to creep in, right? We get into a conversation. We're starting to learn. Year 3, we want to leave each other. After that, we made a decision that love wins. We just made a decision. We were going to walk away. And I'm used to running from everything. At that time, I ran from everything. The law, everything, court, everything. I just ran. Ran from my kids, ran from anything. If there was a problem, I ran. I never really knew how to solve something or even communicate because I never communed. I never understood even communing. Usually, if you're not communing with God, you're not communicating with Him. And I do communion with my wife, not the little cup. I commune. We talk. And when we made a decision, we tried a bunch of things. And while we're trying, now we're trying to write a book about it and write a format on the things that we do. It was tough in the beginning. Like, we're going to talk about this. She's like, nah, I'm never going to talk to you again. I don't want to talk about this no more. And she will go away. And I'm like, well, this ain't going to work, right? Because you're like, well, fine, I ain't going to talk either. And then the Lord would speak to me, and it would be so hard, right? Because I got to go. Humility is the first step to change, right? So everything in me is like, then don't talk to her then. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could go out there, just go for a ride. Like, everything, just your mind's going a million miles an hour. I don't need this. I don't need this. And so all of a sudden, I would have to humble myself, turn around, walk to her, and be like, we can't do that. You don't know my wife. My wife is real sweet, but when she's upset, she's like, whatever. And you just humbled yourself. You did the whole, this is going to work, for Jesus Christ. And you go and you're like, hey, we can't do that if we don't talk about it, whatever. What do you want to talk about? It's like, whoa. Now, we've been in 11 years. This is year 4, right, of trying to apply this Jesus that I've never applied before in a marriage. So we had to make a decision that it didn't matter what it was. I hear guys all the time, well, I can't talk about that to my wife. I go, so you'll never change, right? Well, I can't talk to my husband about that, so you don't ever want change. Well, I'm going to pray. Well, wait a minute. When you pray, it's an exchange desire between you and God that transforms your heart so that then through you the word will manifest to another person. So you're waiting on God to do something that maybe you're the one that's supposed to do it, because deeply rooted issues only get dealt with by new experiences. So if they're not gentle, they need to see gentle in you because you spend more time with Do you understand? You're like, oh, God's going to do it. And then you're like, God, I pray that you just check her, Lord. And then you go about your life. God speaks through us. The thing is that we look at confrontation as a really bad thing and a negative thing. But confrontation done in a healthy way changes everything. Right? So the first thing is you got to be careful on how you say something. You got to watch your tone. Right? I mean, when you talk to the Lord? No. You do not. You do not. Think about it. You know what's crazy? I see marriages, they're like, you don't understand, it's on fire. And when I sit with them, like, they have a normal conversation. They're upset. Well, there's been a couple that, what? But most have a conversation even though they're heated. And I go, you know what you just proved to me? That when you invite God into a situation, because you're not cussing each other out because I'm here. That means you do know how to have reverence for the Lord. And you do know how to talk. You just show me that by me sitting here. I'm nobody. I'm just Juan, who loves the Lord, who comes as a representative for the Lord. So you got to watch your tone. Ooh, Ruthie used to tell me some great things. It's in the book. So it ain't like, you're like, oh my God, he's throwing out. No, it's our life. There were things I did, there were things he did. I was 4 years of my relationship with Christ when I met Ruthie. She was like, I just met Jesus. I'm like, oh man. But she loved him. I could tell she loved him. She just didn't know how to walk it out. She loved him. That's how, like, me and Ruthie were like, hey, we're going to be friends. And then one day, we were in a church service. And I was worshiping like this. And when I looked to the side, she was like, and I was like, Aruga! It's really what happened. It's really what happened. She was cool before then, but I was looking for a woman who loved the Lord, that I didn't have to like drag with me. I was looking for a woman who genuinely loved the Lord because I know we would make it. We would fight, but we would make it. Because Jesus would be at the center of everything. So we got to watch our tone. Make time. The next one is make time. Create a space. So watch your tone, right? How you're going to talk to the person. Then you want to make time. Always remember this. Without proactive planning, we live reactively. In other words, life will become a guessing game. Tensions will be higher. Why? Look, me and Ruthie in November, we sat down for a few days, right? This is why I say make time. And all of these things we learn from the Lord. I make time to speak to my groom. This isn't something that I did. I learned this from like my relationship with Jesus. This is the problem. You do that with Jesus, and then you don't think you have to do that with your bride or your groom. Who taught you that? God didn't, because God said, spend time with me. Let's hang out. Let's build a relationship. So we put time aside where we started talking this year. This year, the Lord said this to me. He said, the more you're in agreement, the less disagreements you're going to have. And you might think like, what? Listen, most of the time, you're just trying to build a parachute on the way down, and when something happens, y'all just start arguing. We talked this year like, okay, Josh is getting a car. So what's going to be if this year he gets punished for something, or we have to deal with something, what's that going to look like? Because in the past, I'm thinking one thing, she's thinking another thing, something happens, then we start getting upset at each other because I'm like, it should have did this. He needs this as a man, She's like, oh, Joshy, He can, I love him, and yes, we will deal with it. But we're just two different I'm a man, she's a woman. And together we work well together, but we have to come in agreement. So we sat down. I explained my side. This is why I feel this should happen. Like, we usually fight about it, but this is why I feel it should happen. Because of this, because of this. Remember, we're not arguing. We're in a good place. We were actually like, we took a couple days when we did the anniversary thing. Beach is right there. No fighting. We're just like, hey, what do you think? So I'm explaining her side. Everybody say, commune. That's what commune is. I'm sharing my heart. She says, well, this is how I feel about it. And then we come in agreement. Then it's so beautiful, it already happened. Something had happened, and she said to me, this is what we're going to do, right? And I'm like, because it sounded like good. And I forgot we had talked about that. She's like, isn't that what we talked about? And I was like, oh my God, the glory be. Glory! Glory. We talked about finances. Where did I learn that from? I get everything to the Lord. I talked to the Lord about every area of my life. We talked about finances together. What does that look like? Who can run the finances better? Not out of like beating our chest, like who does it better? We came into agreement with that. We came into agreement of what she's believing. We were like, look, we got to get a will done. We got to get a will done. Okay, so since we wrote that down, that means we got to create a space and a time for us to go figure, well, how do we do that? We got to find somebody that does will. It's really that easy. We want to pay our house off. Pay our house off. How do we do that? Make a plan. Because we're in agreement with that's what we want to try to figure out this year. Then we're in agreement. Now we just walk it out. You have to make time to have those tough conversations. You got to be a safe place. Come on, where we get that from? The garden. You got to be a safe place. That's what creates trust. I need to have the freedom to share my feelings. Come on, y'all. I need to have the freedom to share my feelings. We say, let your yeses be yeses and your noes be noes. And then your wife's like, no, I can't do it. And you're like, what? I thought you were going to. We do that to our fellow brothers and sisters, right? No, I just want to be chill at home. You want to be at home? The Spirit of the Lord. I don't know. There's so many crazy things that I hear. And it's like, no, if she's so, hey, do you want to have a good conversation and commune? Okay, so you have to be willing and ready to accept what the other person says. It's amazing how we're a team. That's why there's no unity in the church, because we don't start at home. We're a team. We could do this together. We're a team. Okay, I ain't never seen a teammate see another teammate injured and be like, Grant runs over to the dude, what's wrong with you, bro? Like, no, they're a team. He gets him up. Yo, man, you okay? Because they're going in the same direction. Their whole thing is to win the game, make a touchdown. It's the same concept. It's crazy how, hey, let's talk. Hey, here, let's do it. Are you ready? Ready? Hey, let's talk. This is what happens. I'm telling you, this is what happens. I don't know if y'all ever talk to your spouse about sex. Look, it got like crazy up in here. I could feel the... Just don't look to the side. I'm scanning the room for PG 13, 15. I'm kidding. Okay, I got a PG 11-ish shit, 12. So I'm like, when we're going to have that conversation. And when we talk, it's like, I don't wait till like, you going to make me lose my mind up in here. I'm going to go all out. No, right before that, I tell her, babe, you going to make me, right before that. It could be a million things. And you always got to have this conversation periodically. Age does things, having kids does things, getting busy does things. Now, this is what happens. We're like, share. Pastor said, we're going to be a safe place, share. How you know someone's listening is if you say, hey, we're having a problem, sex, da-da-da, and that person literally makes space and time for you. Or the other way around. She's like, well, right now, it's just been hard. I got the kids running around, and I got to clean the house. And just work's been difficult. And you're like trying to understand, but you're like, we're going to have sex? Hey, listen, let me tell you something. The reason why we have such big problems is because we don't talk about stuff like this. But as a guy, what if you said, man, you know what, I understand, and you put it in your mind and you're like, man, how can I help you? Now you're talking. See, the people that do that understand that that's what you do with God. You're like, man, God, you know, I know none of y'all ever have this moment. I don't know what I'm going to do. Why are people like this? Oh, no, sorry. Why? And he's like, Juan, I have mercy with you. I know, but I don't want to have that right now. And he's like, I know. I was on the earth. I know how you feel. But I did that with you. I forgave you. You remember you want me to pull out the list on the things you... No, Lord, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that. No, that was a bad list. And so he's like, extend it to your wife. Extend it to the person. And you go, yes, Lord. And he knows you're listening because you responded. That also gives you a manifestation of heaven. Some of y'all don't do that with the people in front of you because you don't do that with God. I'm telling you, you're your own Lord. He's like, yo, you got to be more gentle. You're like, okay, the minute you get into it, you're like, what you said? What happened to the gentle sermon series? What happened to the... You just read it in the morning Devo, but you don't understand what she did to me. You don't understand what you've done to the Lord. He lets you make it another day. He's like, let's talk about it. Oh, and he's so good too. He's probably a lot bigger than Grant. And he's like, let's talk. God, you're just like, I know I messed up. He don't have to tell you, like, I know. So you have to have that safe place. Because listen, my feelings are very real. It does not mean that they're right, but they are my feelings. It don't mean that they're right. Sometimes they're not right, but they're my feelings. So we have to have conversations so that we can create a safe atmosphere and it create just a place where I can share my truth. And the next one is truth. And we'll close it out. Ephesians 4:15 says, but speaking the truth in love. Speaking the truth in what? Love. Let us grow in every way into him who is the head. Woo! I should have just preached on that. Let me give this to you real quick. But speaking the truth in love. In other words, if you speak the truth and it's not in love, it's no way no. So that means that when we have a conversation, me and my bride, that actually comes from that, and I actually do this with people. We're growing in every way because we're submitting and listening and responding to what God is saying. God came in truth and in grace. Truth without love is painful. I read somewhere, I don't know if it was Tony Evans or somebody that said that love without truth is like a cheerleader without a team. You just empty. Yay, there's nobody you really cheer for. When we walk with God, we have an intimate relationship. We are speaking and listening. We're connected with God through faith in his Son. His heart becomes our greatest desire, and knowing him and hearing his voice and sharing our hearts with him, seek to please him, and he becomes everything to us. I really didn't even know how to put this one. I was trying, I kept writing it down. I was like, I don't even know. I was like, walking with my spouse is when we enter into an intimate relationship. When I enter an intimate relationship with Ruthie, when I hear her concerns, her desires, how she feels. But it's also when she does that with me. Our connection is by way of his Spirit. We share our hearts with one another, and we show that we love by the way we respond. And when you talk to people, do you talk to them so it benefits you? Or do you really care about the other person? Because if you did, when you're talking to them, it should have some benefits for them. What if we could just learn how to talk? That would change. Listen, I'm going to drill this. Why? Because if you came from divorced parents, you probably don't know how to communicate well. I'm just telling you, you're going to have to develop it. Because you didn't see that. What you saw was fights, and they left. That's what you learned. That's the atmosphere you were in. So that's what your heart has. In the center of the core of your being, that's how you operate. Anybody, drug addiction, anything like that, dysfunctional. The moment you got high, you stopped growing. I'm just telling you. So now it's time. You say, well, I don't know. Yeah, you do know, because I'm developing. And I came from all of that. So that means you could do it too. And if you didn't come from that, then that means you should be really good at it. And if you're not, then start developing it. Is it going to be difficult? Absolutely. But his yoke is easy. When two people come in agreement with what his Spirit says, and they begin to talk to each other. I listen to respond. I wasn't always like that. But the Lord checked me one day. We laugh as men, like, oh, we have trouble listening. Ah, ha, ha. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. I will not be a statistic. I'm a man, but I'm going to be a good listener. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to tell people to call me out on it. It's hard, especially when you're a mouth in the body of Christ. I got to work twice as hard as talk. Because I want to fix it. I want to fix it. I want to help. It's my burning desire to help a person. But I know that I'm going to give the best answer when I sit and listen. On your feet. Remember, we're going to be baptizing out there. So I know we like to walk around. Y'all can chill after we baptize so that we can have a nice crowd out there and support our sister. Amen? I want you to do this. I want you to say, Holy Spirit, what are you saying to me? Now, no distractions. Close your eyes. Nothing magical happens with your eyes closed, but something magical happens when you listen. Maybe you haven't been a good listener. Maybe you're in a relationship and you're selfish. You make it more about you. Hey, man, and the grace of God meets you there, and he's like, it's okay. We're going to work on that starting right now. I just don't know how to say it. You say it. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for every person. Maybe you're here and you don't have a relationship with Jesus. You don't have that connection. You're Lord of your own life. You come to church. You read your Bible app. But you still do what you want to do. And you use an excuse for it all the time. But today you're going to make Jesus Lord of your life. If that's you, I just want you to raise your hand high in the sky. Don't be ashamed. Thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Such a beautiful picture when people are making a decision in their heart. Heavenly Father, I pray for everyone who raised their hand and everyone who is in this room, that today be the day that, as the book of Romans says, that when the preacher is sent to speak, that they would have